Welcome to my drive time dialectic Ask Me Anything. We'll see how it goes. I am leaving the Target parking lot. I took off from work to grab some stuff and they didn't have what I needed, and I got out in the car just in time to get started. So we're just going to chat for a couple of minutes while we wait for the audience to build and notifications to go out. And yeah, and Dodge people in the Target parking lot on the north side of Rochester, Minnesota. Yeah, sure you betcha. But, good to see STD here. I want to big it while we're at it and get this stuff out of the way. Want to shout out my show producers. Thank you for all your support. Always looking for other people to step up and do the show producer level if anybody's interested. Love to have other show producers. It's a top tier supporter at on Subscribestar like IMAV. Allie Bell, good to see you. So I've got Subscribestar. If you don't like to go through YouTube, Google, I will take support through Subscribestar. Or unless you just want to send me, cash money, we could set that up too. Chaz, good to see you. Thanks for being here for the Ask Me Anything. I also want to give a shout out to Tab, the Angry Vet, who has just done a massive amount of channel support by gifting memberships and other things to me. That's always appreciated. Our gifting memberships to you guys, which helps support me. So that's always a big one. So yeah, thanks guys for that. Mike Arthur, good Lord, we've got us a skipper in the house for that. I love having Skipper here because I try to show up for Skipper's coffee, morning coffee with the Skipper morning stuff, but I try. Skipper rarely ever shows up and harasses me. I think he's probably here because it's a Ask Me Anything. So anyway, we're thankful to have Skipper here. Skipper and I's intimate relationship will remain completely off. You can ask, but we won't tell you that I am Skipper's baby daddy. I'm not supposed to admit that. And I'm also a Veterans Affairs Media's baby daddy as well. So, yeah. But a big shout out to all my channel members and all my subscribers. I know that YouTube likes to play games with notifications, so thankful for that. So while we're waiting for people to ask me questions, because that's what an Ask Me Anything is for. That's what an AMA is for. If you're here and you have something thought-provoking you want to ask me, or if you want me to explain my position on something or explain something I've said in the past, I'm down for it. Where am I from? Well, I live in Minnesota, which is why the channel is called Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Although I do cover topics that aren't just Minnesota based. In fact, a lot of my stuff takes why no handle instead of this format? Oh, that YouTube's been doing something really weird with people's handles. So I don't know what that's all about. It's very weird. It's been going on other people's platforms today as well. So somebody said they're trying to cut down on cloned accounts, and this is their way of doing it. So I don't know what that means. So. But anyway, yeah, everybody hit that thumbs up. But yeah, something that's been on my mind today while I'm waiting for somebody to ask me another question, is the fact that, as most of you are aware, Minnesota experienced some political violence here about 2 weeks ago now. Tomorrow would be 2 weeks. We experienced some political violence 2 weeks ago. An assassin attempted to kill multiple politicians and their families. And also, we had two of the sitting House of Representatives Speaker, Melissa Portman, and her husband were actually killed in these attacks. And like I said, it's been going on 2 weeks. And today, they started a lying in state. Where are you heading for? I'm heading for home. I'm heading for home. So we've got about 35 minutes together. So, but they took the Speaker of the House, her murdered husband, and their slain dog, and they're letting them lie in state in the state capitol. And if you don't know what lying in state is that's where they take people of, esteem, people of prestige, and they put them in a place of honor and allow people to pass and pay their respects. And I believe that it's an inappropriate action to do that with any politician. I don't think that politicians in the United States, when they pass away, should be given that type of honor. We shouldn't treat them as if they're royalty. What time is it here? It is 5:07. So, yeah. But I just don't think it's appropriate for us to treat elected servants, elected politicians. I don't think we should do it for anybody. Honestly, I don't think the president should get it. I don't think a Supreme Court justice should get that kind of treatment. I don't think that a member of Congress, a member of the House of Representatives at any level, I don't think military veterans should get that type of treatment. I just don't agree with treating people like that. In the United States, we're all supposed to be from the same stock, and we will allow people to lie and stay. It puts them in a special class, and no one deserves to be treated that way in the U.S. I just don't believe in that. I don't care how much they apparently have done or not done. What are your thoughts on the SCOTUS opinions today? Which SCOTUS opinion are you thinking of, Mike, or Skipper, in particular? I haven't had a chance to get caught up on all of them. I saw your video today in regards to federal judges doing injunctions. So universal injunctions, I'm glad that the Supreme Court said no more universal injunctions. I hope that Republican political activists will also embrace that when the time comes. Thanks for putting that in there, STD. I hope that so-called Republican conservatives will also embrace that and recognize that this has impact on them as well, because it's not just the left that uses the federal courts to their advantage. Republicans, conservatives, if you will use conservative judges in the same way that the leftists use leftist judges and leftist appointees. It's a great ruling. Thanks for sharing that out, by the way. It's a great ruling. I hope that we can get SCOTUS even more on board with going back to constitutional originalism. I hope that, so like I know that one of the cases that could be directly impacted by this federal injunction, nationwide universal injunction stopping. Yes, run. With the universal injunctions taking place, President Trump has made overtures towards wanting to end birthright citizenship. And I don't believe that the 14th Amendment ever established birthright citizenship in the first place. It was a terrible, terrible decision on the part of the courts to even create out of whole cloth birthright citizenship. The 14th Amendment was never intended to create birthright citizenship. It was only intended, and there again, I don't agree with the 14th Amendment. I think the 14th Amendment was a terrible amendment. It was not ratified appropriately. The northern forces soldiers, military, were sent into dissenting states after the Civil War to force them to comply with ratifying the 14th Amendment. And anybody who's reasonable, anybody with a lick of sense will tell you that that's an inappropriate use of the military. That's an inappropriate form of ratification. These people are being forced. Like, you're not going to have any freedoms because we're going to continue to occupy you with military force until you do what we want you to do. And that's how the 14th was ratified. And so I think it's time to start looking at repealing the 14th Amendment, or getting the Supreme Court to really look at the history of how it was ratified and start to rip it to shreds. Because, not that Skipper asked, but this is where my brain's going with this question. When you look at the 14th Amendment, it did something that the founders would roll over in their graves on. And that's the extension of the federal Constitution to be applicable to each state, giving the federal Constitution supremacy over state constitutions. And that was never the intent of the federal Constitution. What people need to remember is that the individual sovereign states created the federal government. It's not the other way around. The federal government exists to serve the sovereign states. And each state was to have its own constitution that was separate and superior to the federal Constitution. The federal Constitution was only intended by the sovereign states, the ratifying states, to control and curtail and put hedges of protection up and around the federal government to keep the federal government from having an undue, burdensome influence on the individual sovereign states. And with the ratification of the 14th Amendment, through the threat of military force, that completely flipped the script, which was ultimately what Lincoln wanted to do. Lincoln himself was not a good president. He was the worst president in the history of the Republic. And shred all over the Constitution to do what he was doing. Well, thank you for that, Skipper. That's a who got it. Skipper got his own. Skipper, did you get your own? I think you got your own gift membership. That's hilarious. Thank you for that, Skipper. I appreciate it. So yeah, so the 14th Amendment was terrible in a lot of ways, and what it did is it opened up the door for birthright citizenship. And birthright citizenship needs to be done away with. It absolutely needs to be done away with, because it was the way it was written into the 14th. Thank you again, Skipper. Really appreciate that. Who did STD got that one? Oh, awesome. STD, you deserve it. The way it was written into the 14th Amendment, it was only intended to be a manner by which freed slaves would be considered citizens for a plethora of reasons. And that was to extend constitutional protections to them, and because there again, my position on the constitutional protections, like the Bill of Rights and whatnot, is that the founders always intended for everyone's natural rights to be protected once they were here in the United States. They never intended for the Constitution only to be something that regarded, people who were born here. They always intended it to be an expression of the natural rights of man, especially as it regards, as we all know, the Bill of Rights. And a lot of people fail to see that, and a lot of bigoted, just like ignorantly bigoted people dispute that. And well, they're wrong. They're absolutely wrong. The founders believed in the natural rights of man, which meant everyone, and they intended the Constitution to be a means by which everyone's natural rights would be protected from government. And most of you who are watching know my position. Oh, thanks, Coop. I never drive with two hands, Coop. I always use one hand. Most of the time I have a hand out the window, but I can't do a drive time dialectic with my window down, which might actually make it more entertaining for everyone else, because then you wouldn't hear me. All you would hear is the rushing of wind, which is probably what you think you hear when I'm talking anyway. Man, that guy's a windbag. So what the 14th Amendment ended up doing with the portion as it regards citizenship was to basically, for lack of better terminology, who's that, Jugs? For lack of better terminology, it just basically declared that African slaves, enslaved people who were freed, were human beings and deserving of having the full rights of other human beings. And that was the intent of the citizenship portion of the 14th Amendment. And I believe that could be a beautiful standalone amendment. I think we can do away with the entirety of the 14th Amendment, break it into sections, and address it that way, because we have got to get the federal government out of the day-to-day operations and oversight of the states. And here's where I'm going with this. I'm going to bring this, full circle, if you would, back to Skipper's question. I would love to see, not only was the universal injunction aspect that they ruled on today, it was a beautiful decision. I'm looking forward to being able to read Justice Barrett's opinion, but I would love to see the Supreme Court find a way to tackle oversight of state courts and state legislation. the Supreme Court, the federal courts were never intended, according to originalism, they intended to have a superior position over the state courts, because the federal government did not create the state courts. State courts were created by the states. State legislative bodies were created by the states and not vice versa. And we've got this completely messed up. And I would love to see SCOTUS say, from this point forward, we will have no say over state courts, and we will no longer be reviewing state laws. The reason that I say things like that is it would actually force a massive amount of constitutional reform into the federal government. It would also force a massive amount of states to really take a look at their constitutions and amend them in a way that they are solely responsible for protecting the natural rights of their people. And the minute that you have a Supreme Court that goes back to the originalist position, which is a clear line of delineation between the federal courts and the state courts, and the federal Supreme Court over, or between the federal Supreme Court and the states on any issue outside of interstate commerce, you would see many spurious decisions made by the Supreme Court that forced their decisions across the board onto the individual states. And I'll bring it to like Chevron doctrine, when they kind of backed up the Chevron doctrine for so long, that they had no right to do that. They had no right to back that up because there was no legislative decision that did that. It was strictly the legislative bodies handing over, you know, the House of Representatives in particular, handing over regulatory power to the executive branch, and the executive branch then using, you know, executive orders and policy to force, you know, laws basically that they wanted onto individual states. And so SCOTUS did a great thing in overturning the Chevron doctrine after backing it up for quite some time. You would see decisions like Terry v. Ohio, which is, you know, where we get Terry stops. Terry v. Ohio was a terrible, terrible ruling. And I know a lot of people in law enforcement and a lot of people who are adamantly like on board with back to blue at all costs, always come down on the side of law enforcement until you have like a preponderance of overwhelming evidence. We'll say Terry v. Ohio is a great ruling. It's not. Terry v. Ohio is a terrible, terrible ruling because it created an atmosphere, it created an environment where all a cop has to do is say, I didn't feel safe. I felt like my safety was in danger. I felt like this person could be a dangerous person. And that allows basically stop and frisk, even though there's not a single state in the union that is legally a stop and frisk state. Terry v. Ohio created that environment where a cop can literally stop you as you're walking down the road, say that you're suspicious, and then say they're concerned for their safety and want to pat you down. And a lot of people say, well, if you don't have anything to be afraid of, why be afraid of the cops? You know? Well, because no one should have that kind of power. And Terry v. Ohio, even though that was a state case, and hear me out, even though that was a state case that was lifted up to the Supreme Court took that state case and applied it to all states. So Terry v. Ohio went from being applicable to Ohio And actually, it's the state that took it to the Supreme Court. So even people in Ohio were saying, no, we don't want this. They took it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made one of the dumbest decisions they've ever made. And not only did it then apply to Ohio, it applied to every cop in every state, in every county, in every jurisdiction, municipality, you name it. It literally took a decision that was made in Ohio, overturned the Ohio courts, and then applied it to the entire freaking country, which just wrong. Right, it was absolutely done to erode our natural rights, 100%. And then paved the way for Pennsylvania v. Mims, which is, I can just order you out of your car, and all I have to do is be able to communicate why I need to get you out of your car for your safety. And what people don't understand with Pennsylvania v. Mims is it's widely abused by law enforcement. Pennsylvania v. Mims is actually more of an infringement upon the natural rights of people to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. But worse than that, it actually gives law enforcement the ability to get you out of your car in hopes of seeing even more stuff for them to then launch or justify a warrantless search of you and of your property. So you can have a person in your car who's not the registered owner of the vehicle. You can get pulled over, they can order that person out of the car, and then use something that they find on that person as a justification to search your vehicle. We might lose signal for just a minute here. I'm going through a little tiny valley en route. I knew that was going to happen. Does anybody else have any other question? Any question? Ask me about the channel. Ask me about, you can ask me about what, I'm not going to tell you where I work, but I'll tell you what kind of work that I do. I will give you Skipper's personal address and his personal phone number if you ask. I will do that. I should be nice to Skipper. He did 2 channel memberships. One that he got for himself, which was ironic. I've never seen that happen before. That's actually hilarious. Jugs, it's good to see you. Skipper takes full frontal nudity via email. That's true, he does. I send it to him in text message. Not mine. I just run around to other people's houses, walk in while they're in the bathroom and take pictures of them and then send it to Skipper. What is your new channel? My new channel? I don't have a new channel. I'm working on rebranding the channel. I'm using I'm working with AI to generate some new channel banners and a thumbnail for the channel, and we're going to be okay. We're going to be working to get it more as MBRR Media, because I am trying to branch out into other platforms. So yeah, STD, tell us about your new channel. Yeah, so we got that. I'm going to be putting up more. The big picture with STD, I'm going to have to make sure that we subscribe to that. Thanks, everybody. If you guys haven't subscribed to STD yet, please do. And also subscribe to his new channel there. I can't do it right now, otherwise I'll end the live stream. That's awesome, STD. I'm glad to see you working on that. Everybody, just so you know, over on Vet Nation, we have several people that we talk about on a regular basis that are recovering from cancer, that are in remission, and others that have gone back in, have gone out of remission. STD is a recent working on a series of, continuing a series of essays for my friend Josh Shloka from the Disaffected podcast. I think I'm going to sit down and write my second piece for him about the nature of corruption in law and the institution of law enforcement, or the institution of policing. And my second piece is going to be defining good cop. I think it's a very vital conversation for everyone to be having. I think we have a too broad you guys all know this. We have too broad of a definition of what makes a good cop. So we're gonna work on defining that. What else do I got going on? Oh, I'm upping my involvement at the local level. As you guys saw last Wednesday, I started a live stream to go down and do a agorism walk and talk at Wednesdays on Broadway, but a really strong thunderstorm moved into the area, and I had to end the stream because I was helping people break down their booths. So I'm doing that. I'm thinking about branching out and trying to make it to county commission meetings and also to school board meetings, but I only have so much time in the day, and if you can't tell, I'm still working on becoming svelte, getting my weight down there just a little bit more. I'm hovering at right above 179 in the 179 area. I have been down to as low as 178 I think it was 7, and that was after a couple of really intense workouts, and but I have been under 185 now for almost 3 weeks, and I am very happy with the progress I've made over the last few months, especially, but the last few weeks in particular have been just very encouraging to me. And I think I'm going to work on hovering between, 175 and 183-ish. I'm not going to get too worked up about it. I'm training myself to not get upset if my weight bounces up a little bit from day to day. I'm finding plateaus. Congrats on getting down below 200, Jugs. That's awesome. That's good to hear. I'm sure STD would like to have us send some of our extra weight to him. He lost a lot of weight when he was going through his cancer treatment. So if anybody has a few extra pounds I'd like to send to STD that he could place in all the right places, try and get STD some boobs again. I said it. But, yeah, good job, Jugs. But, let's see. Oh, yeah, I think I'll be happy if if I can keep my weight in that 175 to 182-ish area. But plateaus, I find plateaus are really hard. For me, I get to a plateau and it gets really discouraging, and I think 180 is my current plateau. In military jargon, you have your deck, your ceilings and your decks, and I think I'm on my deck. Lady Linda Early, you would love to send STD some of your weight. Oh gosh, I wish it would. Don't you wish it worked that way, that you could do you could do weight transplants? But I was 300 plus pounds. I will post a couple of pictures for you guys on my in the community in a note I was 300 plus pounds when I started this journey about 6 years ago. And everybody told me I couldn't do it. And just, Skipper, out of all of you, has gotten to know me very, very, very well over the last few years. And when you tell me that I can't do something, that I don't have the strength or the willpower to do it, you are just asking for a fight. And not in a physical sense, but you're just asking for a fight. I will fight you on that when you tell me I can't do it. And a person who I'm currently estranged from, and I'm not, it's not the best thing in the world to be estranged from somebody that you shouldn't have to be estranged from. Well, frankly, my mother, and my brother is very large as well. He and I were both equally large. He was a little bit bigger than me when I started to lose weight. Everybody else was noticing, hey, you're really losing weight. Wow, what are you doing? And we were at a family gathering, and my mother looked at me and looked at my brother and said, he's still a lot smaller than you. And like everybody that heard it went, and never acknowledged that I was losing the weight. And it was just like it had to be this cutting remark. And so I may or may not have learned to be a stubborn fighter from my childhood. I'm sure there again that all of you are going to be very shocked to hear that I'm a stubborn fighter. So I'm pulling into the driveway. Would you guys like to? Does anybody have any other questions? Anything that they would like to ask at all? Because I think we're going to go take a look at the Freedom Flock. We haven't seen the Freedom Flock for a while, some of you. So let's go. Oh, my neighbor's running a saw or something. My neighbor's always running something. Oh, he's running his. There we go. Hello, girls. What? Hi. Now that you know what, Jugs, I keep forgetting that you want one. We got to get that taken care of, don't we? I've got Georgie from Georgie's Life Unfiltered is doing some design work for me, and we're going to be working on putting some stuff up on fourth wall for merchandise for my channel. But yeah, we got to do something to get you a watch cap there, Jugs. But anywho, thanks for tuning in for my Ask Me Anything. I was hoping we'd get a few more of you, and then people would ask me some other questions. But hey, it was nice to chat about some stuff that wasn't super serious for now, and hope that you guys have a. That's Faye. It's Faye telling everybody I'm home. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and subscribe to each other. And I think we're putting out a couple of police interviews that I have that are from the Justice from Pam playlist, and you guys should be sometime this week. And I really appreciate all you guys being here. I really appreciate all the support, everything that you guys do, and you guys know I respect and care for you guys. I love you guys dearly. You're all very good for me, and you don't let me get away with crap. So until next time, my friends, fight for your freedom, it is yours. Fight for your liberty, it belongs to you. Thanks for tuning in. Sic Semper, Tyrannus.